be or not to be? Not to be.
After suffering the slings and arrows of damning criticism and mediocre box office in his most recent movie, Last Action Hero, you might believe that Arnold Schwarzenegger would be tempted to come roaring back with a straight, tough action movie. And his newest, True Lies, has no lack of scenes to fit that description. But it also has an unusually romantic Arnold, flirting and tangoing with the villainess as played by Tia Carrere, and playing the boring computer salesman husband to wife Jamie Lee Curtis, who has no idea he is a master spy.
Listen, the plumber called. He says he has to dig under the slab or something that's going to cost $600.
That's okay.
Well, it's not okay. It's extortion.
So what did you tell him?
I slept with him, and he said he'd knock off $100.
That's good thinking. Bye, honey.
I had to come up with a way in which you would believe Arnold as this boring or overlooked husband. You know, and that's, Arnold is not a guy you overlook. But, you know, once I'd sort of cracked that problem, the rest of it flowed pretty easily.
I don't want to use the word homage because that always sounds so pretentious, but is this a James Bond of the 90s?
I think there's a conscious sense of reference because I think it, certainly in the very beginning of the film, because I think it gives people a comfortable jumping off point. They say, oh, I get it. This is Arnold playing James Bond. Okay, that's easy for me to understand.
And indeed, in the opening of True Lies, Arnold does his Bond thing, out of a wetsuit with tucks underneath and using the Big Bang for diversion.
Goldfinger.
Mr. Schwarzenegger, meet Mr. Connery.
He's the man with the Midas touch. A spider's touch.
Within 10 minutes, the movie has turned completely into something else. And it is definitely for the 90s in the sense that it's what are the repercussions of this kind of adventurous life, and how could a guy who's that devil-may-care really have a home life and a family and all that sort of thing.
When this was in the initial stages, did you and Arnold have talks about his coming off of Last Action Hero and what happened to that film and his feeling and what needed to be done this time?
Any actor is concerned about a failure or a perceived failure, and you know, it may modify what they think about what they're doing. But Arnold never flinched from doing this film in any way. I mean, we went for the comedy, we went for the character, and of course we went for the action, but the action was always in the script. It's not like we sort of ran around and said we have to pump up the action more. I mean, what we always thought we were going to do was take a very kind of simple and innocent and cute concept and scale it up to what we call a domestic epic.
James Bond is in operation. And what an operator he is.
If the character created by Arnold Schwarzenegger, this so-called James Bond of the 90s, comes back for a sequel, how would Cameron deal with women?
The Bond women, 007 style.
After all, in the Bond movies, they were sexual playthings.
That whole sort of sexual rapaciousness of the 60s and 70s is now, you know, we have to look at it from a completely different skew now. And to me, it's interesting. You know, maybe it's just because I'm going to turn 40 in a couple of months that you know, it's interesting to look at relationships in a little more depth, even in a fantasy sort of comedy environment like this.
Is this character that Arnold plays in True Lies, is it a franchise?
Could be. It depends on how successful the film is, how much people spark to Harry Tasker. I think the thing that's remarkable about this film that I'm very proud of Arnold for is the subtlety of his accomplishment. And, you know, hopefully the film's kind of pyrotechnics won't overwhelm people's appreciation of that.
True Lies, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, directed by Jim Cameron, opens in movie theaters nationwide tomorrow. For today, Jim Brown, NBC News, Hollywood.